Alright, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. This is the main side of the company. I'm so used to doing videos for In The Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the other third of our company, because there's three sides to us, In The Image Clothing Company Music, where I actually have been sitting right here playing my little guitar, Frank the guitar, the Yamaha CGS 102A with a custom radius. But this is In The Image Clothing Company, the main side of things. Last fall is when I made most of the videos for this company up until this point for the main side of this, which we have three sides to us, as I said. But In The Image Clothing Company as a whole, we discuss the anatomy of the human body, and we discuss why across the whole earth we get into these chronic patternings of pain and persistent problems. And really, it's because of what's in our name. We are a clothing company. So I'm going to make this video here, and I'm going to just go a little bit over a few natural movements. I'm going to do them right now while my body's still kind of warm. I just got back from playing what we called life-sized foosball. And within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we hung out, we played that with our feet. And then afterwards, we were getting out of the gym that we were playing in, and we were leaving the church where we were doing this. And we were in like the little lobby area, if you will, right? I'll word it like that, as we're leaving the church. And we were doing things, the people that I was around were doing squats, and they were trying to see, like, I want to be able to sit with my heels all the way on the ground and do a squat, but they were wearing these shoes and those shoes, and they were laced this way and tied that way, and these clothes and things in the pockets. And I was just there. I wasn't trying to show off, nor am I in this, let me be very clear. But being the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, I've realized about half hour ago, no, less than that, I just barely got home, that I haven't actually shown within In The Image Clothing Company my own personal being doing movements that are natural, that don't require training and workouts to do. We all have our own situations, but what I mean is, as far as the mobility, we don't need to stretch the body, we don't need to work it out to get it to work. We have all these bold claims, and I'll get into it after, but let's like see some quote-unquote proof, right, is probably what people are saying. I mean, I can't really prove to you that I don't work out, and I'm not trying to be egoic about how strong Evan Strong is, but I do want to show, in my past, I did work out, as I discussed within In The Image Clothing Company content. In my past, I did stretches to try to get my body to its only given range of motion that it should just already have. And in the past, I couldn't do natural movements. In the past, I was in pain. In the past, I was going to physical therapists. So it sounds like a sales pitch. It sounds like this and that and whatever, but we just make content as we do. We've got three sides to the company. I always say, don't believe me, but truth is truth. It manifests itself to you. I'm not giving any exercises for you to do. There's no X amount of week program, because I just said we don't do exercises. But clothing is the only thing placed physically on our bodies. So if it's not centered, which our body is, there's no opinion, no dispute, no yoga class. There's a spine, there's the nose, there's the sternum. We have to have a center to the human being on earth with gravity. Otherwise, it's using excess stabilizing muscles to try to stay vertical. There's parts of the body that are compensating for other parts of the body. If anything within the body isn't working correct, something else and many things has to do some sort of compensation, because the body only works as a whole. It's just a mechanical machine. We focus on the skeletal system because the fat content comes and goes, and so does the muscle mass. But the human body is about its foundation, and as it says in our name, In The Image Clothing Company, all one word, we're all universally designed in the image of our living God, Jesus Christ. So all of our skeletal systems are the same. You can look at the skeletal system on like a diagram in a book, or like one that they've made that you can see all the bones physically. And that's how every human being is structured, unless you've got things, and we address that, deformities, amputations, major surgeries, birth defects, whatever can come up, and it can. But we address the human being as its foundation and as a whole. So with that being said, I'm going to first do some movements, and then I'll discuss a little bit of what we are. This video will be whatever it is in length. I was going to say shorter, but I'm not going to try to limit this, because this is going to be a good documentation. Today is the, oh shoot. Not that it's going to be so wrong if I'm a day or two off, but I think it's the 17th of February, 2025, 16th, 17th, something like that. One of those days. Valentine's Day was last week. It's a Monday today. That'll help you know. So, yes, I'm going to do a few things. Well, first of all, just getting up naturally, okay? If my head gets cut off, okay. And I'd like you to be able to see my feet, but I don't want to be doing too much adjustment with the camera because I want this to just be real. But if you can tell, I mean, I can't do this and have my heels not be on the ground. My heels are entirely flat on the ground, full ranges of motion. But what I was surprised about personally, I've never done a pistol squat in my life. I'll demonstrate what one is. If I can't get back up, that's okay. I just want to say I did my first one, as far as I know, ever, all the way down and all the way up over there tonight after we played about an hour of life-sized foosball. So let me try this. We'll see. If I don't do it, I don't do it, but I was shocked. And I just want to show documentation of today's date, fruits of the labor. I really don't do workouts. I can't prove that to you, but the clothing that we wear either alters the body or just allows, keyword, under In The Image Clothing Company, the human body to just work. So let me try this. No promises, no guarantees, but I touched my left foot a little bit, but I was shocked because over there I did it for the first time ever. But our feet should point forward. A lot of the times the feet go in. There's internal rotation as well as external rotation. And as I always discuss, we live in a modern 2025 currently, and going forward, things will just get more unnatural, altering the body even more. People are in a constant chronic state of external rotation. If you look at people who live on parts of the globe where there's not all this man-made flat flooring and they're not wearing man-made clothing with synthetic materials as much as we are here in the United States of America in 2025, you will see that when they walk, their feet and legs can turn in, like watch this leg turn in, right? As well as turning out, okay? This is internal rotation and external rotation, okay? Internal rotation and external rotation. I understand my head's cut off. I just want this video to be real. In the Image Clothing Company, since the very beginning, since the founding, we've said we are real, we are raw, authentic, just what we are. We're not trying to be something. I have a blister on my knuckle. There we go, right? But I want to really say that this stuff is real. It's not like I'm trying to get you to convince anybody of anything. I'm not trying to have an opinion or make a company work out of something that could be beneficial. That's what I always talk about. The human body only works the way that it does. Every joint within the body only connects to the other joint the way that it does. Everything only has the operations that it does. The ranges of motion, the mobility, the functions. The body's just a machine in all the ways that it is. Skeletal machine, well, skeletal system's a mechanical machine, along with the musculature of the body that moves the skeletal system. We've got the body doing all the things that it does, right? It's like a plumbing system with the blood system of the body, the circulatory system. It exchanges air and gases in the way that it does through the lungs, through the respiratory system. It's got a nervous system. It stems from the brain and goes through the brain stem down through the spine, which is the center of the human being. It has to be. Watch my button-ups when I do anything as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. They stay right in the center. And from the spine, the nervous system stems out through the entire body, like an electrical system, like in our house, how there's wires in the house that feed electricity to the lights and to all the electricity that we use, the electrical systems of a house, right? So the body's just a machine, and anything placed onto it will alter it if it's not allowing it to do the only thing that that machine is designed by our living God, Jesus Christ, to do. You can't see, it's out of the frame, but there's just a photo of Christ here. So I'm making podcasts for In The Image Clothing Company podcast a lot right here at this time and past while. So when I'm looking over here, I've mentioned, right, there's a photo of Christ in this room, and I didn't design it, I didn't decide it, so I can't tell you something that's not true, but if it's true, it's true. Like I'm saying, don't believe me. I've said that and I say that. That's something I love to say within In The Image Clothing Company content. There's so many people out there pushing opinions, pushing beliefs, pushing programs and things you've got to purchase from them. You don't have to purchase In The Image Clothing Company clothing to allow your body to work. We'll just make stuff that's really good, stays centered, fits correct, 100% natural materials, allows the body to work. That's our intention. That's what we'll do, and it'll do that. In every ounce of anything we can have come from that to allow that to be the case, that's what we're doing. That's the point of In The Image Clothing Company. Other than spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, really in addition to, because we do that in and through all three sides of the company and in all things that we do, but we allow the body to work. It's the physical reason we have In The Image Clothing Company, and it works. What we say, it's not something you got to believe. Please don't. But in order for that to happen, we have clothing placed onto a mechanical machine. The hips are the central part of the body, vertical from top to bottom. We hinge at the hips. We rotated the legs at the top of the hips, at the top of these femurs, which are the bones of the upper leg. We rotate at the shoulders, which come up from the hips. I could get into all the anatomy, but I do, and I know the body in depth, and you don't believe me. Go check out In the Image Clothing Company. All three sides I mentioned the anatomy of the human body the way that I do. I don't want people to be spending extra time and energy and actually potentially getting more damaging surgeries or doing exercises that people are saying are going to help them, but it's actually worsening their current state. I want people to know the truth. And that's something you don't believe me about, because we're equal human beings. We're sinful by nature. You don't got to believe Evan Strong. You don't got to believe Mr. Podiatrist about your feet. You don't have to believe the physical therapist about your back pain. You don't got to believe the chiropractor about why your shoulder keeps coming out of socket. You don't got to believe anything about what the orthopedic surgeon says you got to do to your knees because you got the cartilage all worn down or whatever. You don't got to get arch reconstruction surgery. You don't got to go fix some kind of anterior pelvic tilt, which isn't really a real thing, and we get down to the truth of it. Don't believe me. You don't got to go doing all these things, though. What you got to do is realize that our physical bodies would just work on the earth as they are. Look at animals. They don't wear clothing. Look at human beings wearing a big oversized t-shirt and they can't even hold their own shoulders up. See what I'm saying? It's just the truth. The body's designed to work. We have an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Designed to Work. The body only works if it's activated as a whole. The core that people are saying they want to try to activate before they start to lift something, if the core is deactivated, your feet arches will be collapsed. If your feet arches are collapsed, your natural open hand palm won't be there. If your core is deactivated, your pelvis will be in an anterior position rather than posteriorly tucking to allow that spine to be neutral, which is the only way the spine will ever be neutral. Everything's connected in the body as a whole. We don't have opinions that we preach here. We say, please do not believe us, but just take the truth within what we say, because it is true. So across the entirety of the globe, clothing is doing the same thing to every human being. And even if the clothing is exactly perfectly centered and balanced as best as we possibly could get it, being just a piece of fabric that we place onto us, and if it's natural materials 100% without blends and stretch and has no give to it so the body can react to what it's going to do when it reaches the endpoints of where the clothing hits, and we have our shoes laced and tied correct and our clothing sitting in the correct locations, if we're doing all that, still, if we're wearing things oversized, it can be all, okay, well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be sitting correct and stuff. I guess I kind of got confused about where I was going with that, because I was just kind of, I want information in this video as like a one video. We've got somewhere around 150 videos on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, and not just for the sake of cranking out content, but each one of them is very specific to a topic of the body, how X, meaning item of clothing, affects body mechanics. Again, it's just a mechanical machine. It just has operations physically. And then we have In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we're on episode 61, and I talk a lot about clothing and the anatomy of the body in there, as well as discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. On In the Image Clothing Company music, I show how to set up guitars at this point, and whatever instruments we get into and whatever we further with music, to just allow the guitar to not ever cramp up your hands. The hands only work how they do. The feet only work how they do. The whole body is just one machine that just does the only thing that it does. And so when we're approaching anything in life, we talk about sleeping and eating naturally, hydration and how to stay hydrated. We talk about pretty much anything that the body does and will do physically. And well, that's the whole thing. The body's just a physical thing. We are nothing physically without a physical body. We're spirit children of our living God. But without a body, you don't have this earthly life. And so you can address your mental health and your emotional health, and you can address all the things that you want to that way. But if you neglect the body that we feel emotions through, the body that has a brain, which is the only way we have intellect and mental capacity, the way that a human being does, those things have to come secondary to the human body. Otherwise, they wouldn't have an opportunity to even be there. And so we have to address the body to the best of what we can in our own situations. And yeah, just meaning, I mean, I've had my own things. I've had 2 full open heart surgeries. or the sternum that I say is the center of the body, mine's been cut from here to here, my entire rib cage, and opened up for my heart to be worked on, put back together, and wired up to hold it back together. But the body's just a machine, and it's things like that that we can tell that, oh yeah, that makes more sense. You break a leg, and sometimes they put a metal rod in there to just substitute the structural system of the body's skeletal workings. The body's just a machine, and if it breaks, we can do what we can to try to fix it, but really it's going to work the best the way that it was designed initially, because it wasn't designed by us. So we just have natural things that we can do as human beings. You want to sit down in a deep low squat with your heels on the ground and your glutes touching your heels? Good. That's the full range of motion of your legs. If you're not using your body in its full ranges of motion, it's going to get stiffened up and only work in partial ranges. If you want to stop stretching, don't believe us, but the human body doesn't need to be stretched. It's designed to work. It's been given those ranges of motion. When you're stretching, you're not going to go past them. It only has the amount that it does at its very end points if you're the most healthy, physically human person on the earth. You're not going to stretch past the ranges of motion that are just there. You're going to hit something. The bones are going to hit together. So those are just ranges of motion the body's already given. They'd be there. And there's no reason they wouldn't be unless something was restricting that range of motion. And it is. And we get down to the truth of it. Don't believe us, but we really do. It's clothing. The only thing placed onto the physical mechanical machine we're trying to address. So, because of that and all that, I'm going to talk real quick about where clothing needs to sit. Now that I get in a little bit of discussion, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of like, hey, can you please understand that it's not an opinion of mine? Don't believe me, but it's just the truth. You actually want to change your life. You want to actually allow your body to do the only thing it was designed to do without having to go to the gym and try to do workouts, but doing them in positions your body isn't even working, so you're getting deeper ingrained patternings and scar tissue. Going back to the physical therapist, but you don't know why. Going back to the chiropractor month after month, but you didn't do anything in between. What the heck? The body's designed to work. I don't have some kind of like ideal world. I don't have some kind of opinion. I don't have some kind of belief on this. I don't have some kind of like, you can choose to do this, but you can choose to work out in clothing that doesn't fit you correct and is altering your body. You can choose to diet all you want and choose what you eat very intentionally and specifically to try to get your body to do X, Y, and W within clothing that's not allowing your body to just operate. And so it's using everything in a position that's not the only way that it does. Those things aren't going to work. Exercise, all this stuff. I say we don't have to exercise to just let the body work, because if the body is just working, as in turned on, all the muscles activated. Muscles can't just turn off. We can't be sitting on chairs that are at the height of our knees at a 90-degree angle like this, right? Like a normal chair, with a chair pressing into these really large muscles right here, the hamstrings, and cutting them in half. And now your body's been deactivated because you've set it onto something. We can't be doing these kind of things and expecting our bodies to work. But we can understand the way that something that we've been given, that we didn't design, works. The only way that it operates, and we can let it, in the Image Clothing Company's key word, allow it to work. That's all we can do. There's no opinion. I mean, I get blunt. Sometimes I sound like I'm just like trying to spit stuff in people's face. But because I know how much people are getting told, doctors, physical therapists, right? All the things, surgeons, whatever it is, people are taking medications to try to get their body to physically function, like mobility-wise, like move through its environment. You're trying to put some minerals into your digestive system, which is one of the systems of the body, and it's not the operation of the physical being. Like this, moving through the earth, doesn't make sense. And that's why it's not working. So, because of all this and many more, I mean, I don't know, this video can be as long as it needs to be, but the big thing is, clothing's the only thing placed physically on us. Clothing was always natural in the past because there was no such thing as unnatural materials until decades back, and then never before then did that even exist. It couldn't have even been something we could have. Plastic wasn't even a thing 100 years ago or ever before then. It didn't even exist. It really didn't. So polyester, which is such a common thing to make clothing out of, it's just a type of plastic. Plastic's just oil that's melted down and shaped into something. In the case of a polyester item of clothing, it's these little tiny strands of plastic. Again, oil that's woven and weaved into an item of something that still doesn't even quite fit on your body the only way that it works. And so now it's seeping into your body like a topical cream we place onto the body to heal it from the inside. but we put it on the outside. So we can get into all we can get into, and I've talked about this stuff, and I do, and I will, and that's what In The Image Clothing Company is. But the big thing is, I want to show that I can really move my body, and I don't know what else I can really do within this small little space. But I chose this space, and not really that I chose it, but I just felt really prompted to come home and make this video right now, because I just want it to be as real as it is, man. And that's what I say within In The Image Clothing Company podcast. It's as obvious as it is once you see it, you know. And we don't see these things. We don't know these things. We get blinded by things. I was doing all these things wrong myself, and that's what allowed me to have the understanding that I do to found In The Image Clothing Company. So the body just works how it works. I like to do some more movements to really show that my body can work. But I mean, like posture, you know, and just having a very vertical spine. That's something that I never had in the past, but it has to be allowed to happen by having internal rotation, right? And now you have a neutral spine, you have a neutral jaw that stabilizes the entire body, but none of that can happen without your feet being unaltered. The lowest point on our beings on an earth with gravity, the feet. So the feet have to just do what they're gonna do. If they're being altered, it's like building a really big building and everything's perfectly done. If we could do anything perfectly, which we can't, we're human beings. But at the very base of it, something's really altered at the foundation. That's these things. And these things are my shoes, my boots. These are Xero Denver leather. Shout out to them. No affiliation as of this date or this video, but I love these. They're barefoot shoes. They allow my feet to be entirely flat on the ground, and I laced them and tied them correct. In The Image Clothing Company has a shoelace technique that we use because the human foot is only shaped how it is, and when we see it, it's as obvious as it is. Shoelaces are just a rope that we weave into whatever pattern we're choosing to do on the top of our feet. And we're tying a knot, which will then twist the ankle. Check this out. Like I said, I don't know for sure what this video is going to be, but it is what it is. If I take this left side of this left boot and tie it over toward the inside, right, and pull on it, the boot goes left. I mean, I'm not pulling it. Do it for yourself. Don't believe me, right? But then if I tie this left boot, but I accidentally do it the wrong way and tie it the opposite way it should be, the boot goes right. Again, don't believe me. Do it for yourself on your own shoes if you've got them. And if you've got them, that's the problem. That's why I'm saying this. That's why I'm addressing it. There's only one way we can tie a rope around the ankle to not restrict the ankle's motion. And that's over toward the inside on both feet, evenly, to the center of the body, because there is one. We don't get to say. We don't have a say about it. We don't get an opinion about it. We don't get to decide. We didn't design our bodies. Actually, I'm going to take my boots off. This is going to be a real video. I mean, they're all real videos, but this is going to be like a really... Like I said, I haven't made a video for the main side of In The Image Clothing Company in a while, so I want to hit some stuff hard on the date of whatever it is, the 16th or 17th of February 2025. It's Monday, so here's the shoelace technique, right? This is In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique. We don't own this, and again, these boots are from Xero, the brand. I love them. No affiliation as of this video, but see this technique just like that. This lower part's going to allow that to put pressure on your foot where your foot's going to bend. Your toes flex upward like this. They don't flex the other way as if you're lacing it any other way. This is how the feet are shaped. It's not my opinion. I don't get to decide it. I didn't design it. The human body, I did not. So that's how the body works, and that's the only way, stemming from its foundation. But here's the thing. We've got these slippery synthetic tongue tags that are placed into shoes. And legally, right, it's a legal thing nowadays. It tells you information about the shoes. Any brand, no matter what it is. Materials that it's made out of, where they're sourced from, what size it is, washing and drying instructions, the patents, and everything to legally sell a product nowadays, they place onto tags within clothing. But if I have my ankle here, which I do, and two of them, because there's two sides to a body with a center line, and I'm trying to flex my foot up, which is called dorsiflexion. This is plantar flexion, the P, right, for pointing your toes, and dorsiflexion is lifting your toes up, plantar, dorsi. If you dorsiflex your ankle, it's pressing that slippery tag right against all these muscles. Shin splints, it's not a real thing. Don't believe me, but if you're pressing a slippery synthetic material against muscles of the ankle, they can't activate against something they can't predict. So now you have shin splints. But not only do you have shin splints on your shins, but all the muscles of your ankles are deactivated, traveling up your entire body and altering the workings of everything to the tip of your head and the tips of your fingertips. Right? We gotta have fingernails though. We got to be able to support our hands. That's what the fingernails are for. Cut all the way to the tips of them and flat. You can curve the edges of them, but if they're flat, then they can't roll. And you got grip strength that you couldn't have imagined in the past naturally. Same with the toes. If you cut your fingernails or toenails shorter than the ends of your fingertips or toes, then the support's not there and they roll over the end and you feel like you don't have a grasp on reality. This is just truth. I mean, don't believe me, but this is just In The Image Clothing Company. This is what we do. So we talk about everything though. We get really minute little tiny things, tweaks in seams that are doing things to the body that's twisting it. Rotations, like the feet. You tie the shoes differently from side to side, or really to the same side, you're twisting your entire foundation. You tie them evenly over toward the center of the body, like this, and now you can walk the way that the human feet naturally work. Like I did the squat earlier, and I said your feet should point forward or slightly in. That's how an arch grips within the feet, is inward. Don't believe me? That's just how it is. I didn't design it, I didn't decide it. People thousands of years ago, their bodies work the exact same, and they always will. So, there we go. Shoelacing technique under In The Image Clothing Company, and those slippery synthetic tags in there, the ones in these boots, I've taken a knife and just put a lot of little tiny slits into them to get some texture, so the ankle muscles can activate. Otherwise, you are never going to have a healthy body. And if you don't know, you don't know. I didn't know till I was 24 years old. Okay? But we got to remove all tags from inside clothing. Because what that tag's doing there in the tongue of the shoe, tags are doing in the rear of the shirt, and the side of the shirt, and the sides of the pants, and the rear of the pants, anywhere and everywhere they're placed within clothing. But then also if they're protruding and sticking out, they're causing a gap. And now your shoulders, they have these muscles up here, the upper traps, the mid traps, the lower traps, that are right on the middle of the rear of your back between those scapulas. I know the anatomy of the body. I mean, like, I know it in depth. You got a slippery thing against those muscles they can't activate against. You got something causing a gap there, being the same thing, but it's sticking out. Now you're going to be walking around like this, rather than like I'm sitting. My body activated as a whole, just working. The body should just work. I'll sit like this for a bit while I talk, so again, fruits of the labor. I'm not touching my back against the wall. I'm just hanging out. It's not about me. I'm not trying to show off, but I'm speaking truth. So here's the thing. We remove all tags from clothing. Those are our two prerequisites, shoelacing and tags. Removed. In The Image Clothing Company's two prerequisites. Also though, the clothing that we wear, it sits on our body. Pants, the waistline sits on our hips. The hips, like I said, are the center of the body. Shirts, the top seams of them sit on the shoulders. And not only sit on them, but all you're doing as you're going through life is holding the weight of your clothing off the ground. We don't think about it like that. I never did until I did. It's as obvious as it is once you see it. But the seams on top of our shoulders have to sit behind the shoulders, evenly behind these little bones up here, because the shoulders connect into the very base of the rear of the skull and the spine, the very back of the body. Those upper traps that do this, that's where they connect. The mid traps, which are below that, they pull the shoulders back, they connect to the spine. The lower traps below that, they pull the shoulders down, they connect to the spine from the shoulders. The shoulders really sit behind the body naturally. Like if I'm sitting sideways like this, talking to you as if I'm facing you, my shoulders are behind my head because they don't work here, or my body doesn't work at all, and my core is deactivated. If your core is deactivated, from there up and from there down, your whole body's deactivated. So that's a state that a lot of people are in, and it can happen from any one of any of these things because the body only works as a whole. Now, yes, behind the shoulders, right? Evenly behind the shoulders, those seams sit, but then also right at the very edges, ideally, right? I mean, yeah, right at the very edges. The whole thing is there's a ball and socket joint in the shoulder. It has to move the only way that it's going to move, the only location it's going to do its motion in. And if the seam's not where that motion is, then now you've got a skeletal system moving here and a seam that's going to hinge down here. And now you're sitting like this, right? Standing like that, whatever it is, as a human being. Now the pants that we wear though, if we have a core and all the muscles in the front here have to get shorter and contract to just be activated, the state they'd always be in if nothing altered them ever in the past or now, well, they have to get shorter. It's like doing a sit-up or a crunch. It's like me doing this, right? These core muscles are contracting, but they are here as well. 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 All the way flat on the ground, glutes to the heels. I know you can't see them, but I'm trying to make it really obvious that I'm actually all the way down, the core always has to be activated, or else the whole body can't do its function. It's like an apple. I relate the core of the human being to the core of an apple. You've got a nice apple growing on a tree, and you core the apple and take the core out of it where the seeds are, and the apple will wither away. The center of the apple is what supports the apple, what gives it life. Same with this thing, the core of the human being. But if we have a pant waistline that's any lower in the front, it pulls on that core and it deactivates it. So the waistline of our pants needs to be all the way above our hips, or else you're never going to open your hips and just have ranges of motion in your legs, in that hip socket, where the femur comes up and connects to the hip, right? But then also, in addition to having them all the way above the hips, the waistline of the pants, it needs to be slightly higher in the front. If it's falling down in the front, it's literally pulling these muscles apart, and they can only work if they contract together. So that's how the pants have to be. Okay? Don't believe me. Don't believe me. I'm a little like, I've been moving, man. I've been moving. So I like this though, because I don't do this that much. Within most all the founding videos for In The Image Clothing Company, out in the field that I made them in last fall, 2024, I normally just stood in the same location or sat on the ground and talked to the phone. That's what I'm using as a cell phone to film these videos with at this time. So I like to move around like this and show I'm not just saying stuff out of a textbook. I've got personal experience. My body works because I just allow it to. I can't get it to do anything that it's not going to do. I mean, you're not going to get the wrist to do something that it doesn't do, or the shoulder, it's not going to work down here when all these muscles now are pulled down, right? Just like the core, it's not going to work with the pelvis in an anterior position because the waistline, when these muscles are now stretched out in that case, it only works contracted. These only work contracted. The body only works how it does. Don't believe me. It's not my opinion. So there we go. In The Image Clothing Company. I like doing movements though. I've mentioned before, when I was a teenager, I always said I was in love with movement. I always just wanted to be able to move. But I was wearing oversized clothing and boots with heels on them and things in my pockets, right? All these things, man. I was using things with my hands that were then altering my shoulders. The hands essentially the shoulder. The feet are essentially the hips. We don't know these things till we know them, but it's kind of weird because it's our own body. And it's never going to change, and it hasn't changed since we were born. It's just what it is. It's just going to function how it's going to function. I mean, yeah, we grow, and we go from a newborn to a full-grown human being, but, I mean, the body just does what it does. So, anyway, don't believe me, but it's the truth. I don't know if there's any other kind of movements that I can do, like right here. I mean, I threw a really whippy cartwheel over there, too, and I love doing that. I used to do a lot of flips, parkour outside, and pain in those times. But now I just don't get pain. It's not about me. I'm no different than you, other than maybe my level of intentionality. I got a very, 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 very high level of intentionality of what I place onto my body and just how I eat things, how I sleep, how I sit and stand and walk and just do all the things that a human being does physically. But also my level of understanding. You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know any of this stuff until I went through all that I had to learn it. That was a lot of mistakes, a lot of lacing shoes incorrectly, damaging my feet even worse, tying them incorrectly, damaging my feet even worse. Years and years and years I wore oversized clothing. And so all my muscles got just pulled into a position that they never will work in. So much jaw tension and jaw pain. My bite changed with my teeth where they mesh. The insertions of muscles into bones, like the upper traps into the base of my skull, they get a little bit altered from where they're only going to pull to being in a position where they're never going to work, but we put them into for years at a time. And so there's been a lot of adjustment that I've had to do, the outsides of the legs, because there's that natural curvature to the outside of a human leg, and they get really altered if the feet are being altered by shoes or lacing of any kind or tags or even pant cuffs sitting on the tops of the feet. They're just going to restrict the dorsiflexion of the ankle. It's just the truth. Don't believe us, please. Just for the sake of, you don't got to be believing people. I grew up with someone telling me that I had to believe everything they said my whole life. That was not fun. And so that's why I'm very clear to say, don't believe me, please, but I'm giving you truth. Pray about it. It's not about me. I didn't design it. I can't decide it, right? I keep saying that. That's how it is. It's the human body. Our God, Jesus the Christ, designed our bodies in his image. If you check out In the Image Clothing Company, on any three of the sides, we have 3/3 to us. We spread the gospel. We spread the truth of all things. That's what the gospel is. Don't believe me, but it is. You got a question about how to navigate this earthly existence you've been placed into without a say, right? Or at least it seems as though you had no say. You don't know what to do sometimes. You don't know who to turn to, who to trust. We speak and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're never going to do it perfectly. I'm never going to relay the anatomy of the human body perfectly, but I know it. I know Christ. Don't believe me, but truth is truth. I mean, if I'm telling you something, if I'm saying something, if I'm relaying information, and you can sit in your house across the earth from me, never having met me, but just see a video or two from In the Image Clothing Company, and try the things that we're discussing, and they work for you, you don't gotta believe me, but it's just working. There you go. So, I'm gonna wrap it up just like that. Like I said, today is whatever date. I think it's the 17th of February, 2025. I know it's February. I know it's 2025. I know it's somewhere around that date. My name is Evan Strong. I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. I'm going to be doing cool things with guitars when and as I do, and I'm currently doing it. We've got In the Image Clothing Company podcast, deep discussions. I'm really good at speaking. I've got a way with words. I grew up speaking a lot, doing a lot of wordplay in all the ways that I've done that. And so within the podcast, we've got somewhere around hour-long discussions of the truth of all things. But then we just get into things. I mean, it's authentic, it's real. Hang out with us. This is a familial place in the Image Clothing Company. It's a community. It's a place that, we are going to have clothing. That's going to be great. It's going to be clothing you can do everything in. Ideally, it lasts 10 years, no guarantee. But, right, I mean, just like good stuff. We got to, have something that lasts if we don't want to just keep purchasing things because stuff wears out or stuff doesn't quite work for us. So we're going to do all that we can to be very intentional about every single item of clothing from In the Image Clothing Company that we ever design and put out. We're new at it. Me, the founder, the singular founder. As far as right now, I got no other team members. But the team's going to grow. The team's going to build. It's just truth. How could it not? It's not about me. I don't care about the recognition. But what I do care about is Jesus Christ. And human beings, sometimes you'll see one go from like this person, but all of a sudden, even though it's the same person, they seem like a completely different one out of nowhere. And it's like, how'd you do that? Well, they don't. The only way you can have a 180 in your life, a complete turnaround, is through Jesus Christ, our one and only true living God. Don't believe me? But we're giving truth, okay? Stick around, please. You got a problem with what we're saying? Stick around, okay? Deeper context, deeper understandings, that's what's going to help you. And I discuss things in depth. I've had people ask me before, why are your videos so long? If you made them shorter, more people would watch. Because I make videos, half hour to an hour, usually is probably just about how long they are. The podcasts are longer, and there's some videos that are on either end, but average is somewhere between half hour to an hour. And it's like, well, because I don't want people thinking that I'm just sitting here trying to tell you something. I'll describe stuff in such depth that you don't even have any kind of choice to think that I'm making an opinion about it. Because how could I do that when I've just fully described something to the degree that I do, right? And it's pretty darn fully and in depth. So, I mean, just don't believe me, but there's no way you can deny truth without denying truth. Truth is truth. It doesn't change. But I didn't decide it. I didn't design it. Go. Okay. How many times have I said that? Enough for this. So, yes. Check us out. Stick around. Like I said, you got a question, you got a problem, you got physical pain, you think that I'm just some kid who's trying to make a big deal out of something or trying to have an opinion. Cool. Think it all you want, but it's not true. Hang out. You offended by what we're saying? You thinking I'm being mean to you because I'm saying you're going to the chiropractor too much? Well, do you like going over there and getting your back pushed on? Right? Stick around. You got a problem with us? Stick around. I love it on that end. Please, for your sake. I don't need to be sharing any of this stuff. If I was trying to do just whatever I wanted, Evan Strong, I don't need to be sharing this stuff. The rest of my life is going to be different physically, functionality-wise. My sleep, right? How I know how the body digests food the best and how to eat and stay hydrated. All these things. I mean, my life's going to be changed no matter what. If I'm just trying to be all selfish and just do whatever I wanted, I could have the potential to just be like, I don't need to share any of this. I'm sharing it because it's true. Again, don't believe me. I'm not getting anything from this as of now. I haven't sold a single item of In the Image Clothing Company clothing as of today's date because we don't have any as of today's date, but it's coming, right? I've had no compensation. I told you how many videos I've made, how many podcast episodes I've made for all three sides of the company. The content that's there, I've got nothing compensation-wise as far as like money or status or fame or whatever. It's not about that. It's about spreading truth. So stick around, okay? Please. Don't do it for me. Do it because it's the truth. And we live in a modern 2025. People don't know what to believe because they're believing stuff. Don't believe in anything. But let's look around and look at things as they are, please. That's what I'm trying to do, but I don't always say it perfect. I never will be perfect, but neither will you. Is that some good news? The gospel, literally translated, means good news. Our whole company is centered on the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's in our name. So stick around. Thank you.